Hey, what's going on? Chris Bob. Say hello, Chris.
Hello again.
Yeah, that's right. Here we are again. So this is number 18. Wow. We've
That's
already got
right.
the 18 of these quick picks. This one's
And we're not
entitled,
and we're not talking about Team PCP
no,
this time.
don't
Yeah.
worry. Don't
Yeah.
worry, Chris. If you're longing for another Team PCP, I'm bet your ass we're going to
Oh my
talk
God.
about them again at some
That's right.
point here
That's
because
right.
we can't
Yeah.
see. It's like a bad hot dog. We can't seem to get over it. You know what I
That's
mean? We
right. You
just can't
can't
seem
you
to get
can't
past it.
avoid it.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah. So this one, although I swear to God, this one's almost as bad as when we started talking about, months ago about the GitHub stuff, because this has to do with cPanel, which, we'll talk more about. But this one's called cPaneling is cheap.
Yeah.
So the basic setup is, and let me just give you the basic setup, and then we can kind of get down into this. But especially those of us that are older and have been around forever and kind of grew up in this ecosystem, the one thing that's been kind of a constant for, oh God, I don't know how many years now, 20, 15, something, a hell of a long time.
Probably, yeah. I'd say 20. Yeah, at
Yeah,
least,
probably
yeah.
close to 20. Has
Yeah.
been the fact that there is a piece of software, just about every website out there, or at least a massive portion of them. It doesn't matter whether it's a shopping website or whatever the hell it is. Even email hosting, or even when you were just doing email on the
That's
web
right.
kind of
Email
hosting,
hosting was that's a lot
that
of
was a
people, that's
real
their
big one. Yeah. Right.
first introduction to it. Yeah.
Right. A huge proportion of those things run through a piece of software called cPanel. And cPanel is basically your dashboard for configuring and operating, all of the configuration related to the site, right? So, I mean, it had the ability for you to grant privileges, create counts, do everything you needed to do. Basically, a complete admin panel for that server. I mean, that's really what
Mhm.
cPanel is. And it turns out this week, and I mean literally this week, we're doing this now. This is the 1st of May. So this week, we
Yep.
found out that we basically found out that for at least a couple months now, before anybody was told this in the public, the attackers have been able to kind of just basically go straight through the front door on that little piece of software
That's right.
and not even use a password. So when we get into the details, you'll see why we're head shaking this shit. It's quite none. You didn't have to have a password. None. Zero. Just a
This
standard,
is even great. Yeah.
HTTP request. And they basically owned your goddamn server, right?
Passwords. Who needs passwords?
Yeah.
And where this is not the definition of a passwordless system. This
No.
is or
This is
passwordless credentials.
this is
This is
this is not
passwordless.
zero trust. This is
That's right.
this is not it's not zero trust. This is
No.
zero prevention is what this is. So, yeah, Chris, you want to walk them through some of the?
Well, no, let you go ahead and do it because
Yeah,
I think you'll do a better job with this on just kind of explain, especially from the
yeah.
just do it. Yeah. So you go ahead and I'll
All right,
add
well, let me
add
look
color.
at the bottom line. When you get down into what really went on, because I shake my head when I was reading it. I'm going, you got to be fucking kidding me, dude. Are you absolutely kidding me? Because when you make an HTTP request, right? So if you go to cPanel and you make a request to it, um, what it turns out, if you just no matter what your request is related to trying to authenticate against something, it'll basically pass you back, cookie, right? Because a lot of these things are cookie based, right? Because
Yeah.
they use that as a methodology to handle the session. And so you get a session name, and then they'll send you this obfuscated secret, as a part of that, because of they're trying to be secure, so they're not going to give you a clear text secret. They're just going to obfuscate one. Well, that in and of itself is okay, not a problem, right? But what the attackers have figured, what these yahoos have figured out, right, is all they got to do is just reuse the session token name, right? But just basically omit, just more or less
Yeah.
cut out the secrets section
Yeah.
segment, right? The part with the obfuscated secret, and then without it, then they can encode a password field. It's just basically skipped entirely. So that's how they prep it, right? And then they submit another basic header where the password contains a new line and then some characters forward session keys because you can basically forge a session key, and it doesn't even have to be one that the server really has any knowledge of. It's a forged one, so it's completely made up session key. And the code basically strips out all of the null bytes but not the new lines. So it'll strip null bytes out of your damn thing, but not new lines. Well, what that winds up doing is those new lines wind up going straight into the session file on the disk, which what happens is basically the next step of that is, a follow-up. They do a follow-up request that triggers the session cache to kind of go rebuild from that raw file. In other words, there's a way you can kind of do it as a recovery mechanism because of the way HTTP sessions work. It'll go rebuild, that raw file. And when that happens, whatever those injected keys are, they just basically get promoted. They get promoted to a top level JSON session. And when they do that, it gets the JSON properties for the server and all the server trusts involved in it now. In other words, when we talk about prompt injection, we talk about that a lot nowadays in AI. This is just basically code injection.
Yeah, it's the same thing. Yeah.
It's basically code. This was the predecessor to prompt injection. This was basic code injection. They basically code injected to the point where it gets promoted to an elevated level and more or less opens up the session properties for the whole damn server, for everything that it trusts. And then they can basically, they see, once the server sees the session and says the user is already authenticated successfully as root, it basically hands you root access.
Yeah. So it's almost like the force.
No, yeah, it literally is. Hey, this is the password you were looking for.
Yeah, this is the password you were looking for.
This is the password you were looking for.
Oh, and by the way, this is root.
But and no valid password was even involved in this. It literally, and how long this flaw has to have been floating around. Now it makes me wonder, how did they come across this nowadays? And at some point, it could be that this is one of those, using AI to spot. I can only imagine that somebody had to spend a lot of time on this, or automation had to spend a lot of time on it. But regardless, the bottom line is you didn't have to have any kind of valid password whatsoever. This harkens back to some of the, in the way early days, the Stone Age.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the old Stone. I remember early on, when their storefront started opening, and I remember I was watching this person. She was like, it was like at a presentation or whatever, and she was talking about, yes, you could go in there and change the price on an item that was $5,000 to $50 or whatever, real simple, and these kind of post commands and do that type of stuff, because there was just no one really thought through all that kind of stuff. So you're right. This is like old school tactic.
Yeah. Coming back to get us, right?
I was going to say too, a lot of these things, especially now, we're talking about these like new vulnerabilities coming out and stuff, and not changed on the AI, but this is a good example. Is like, did others know about this, and have others been using it, and we just didn't know? And it finally came to the surface because these particular people did it. So that's the other thing you wonder about, all these quote 0 days. Like, well, how long's that 0 day been around?
Well, yeah, smart people probably could have been using it forever and not said a damn word, right? You just don't know.
Right. You don't know.
You don't know. You don't know how long. Look, the fact of the matter is, we know it's been there since cPanel was invented. It has to be, for the most part, right? So it's been around forever. So it's always that, I always say this, it's the dumb ones that get caught. You know what I mean? So, because again, so let's talk about it from a defense standpoint. What could you have done to defend it? Why wouldn't anybody pick this up, through a normal standard set of defenses? Well, again, how many times we talked about in the last few weeks, there's no malware involved in this. This is not, there's no exploit file. There's nothing. There's no unusual binary involved in this.
And there's nothing that your detection tools would necessarily be looking for, right? Because it's not like a known IOC. This isn't a repeat of something else that we've seen, or a tweak of something else, or something like that. This is like its own deal, its own little beast. And you're right, it is just normal stuff. So unless somebody's really, and you're talking about website stuff and cPanel, and I don't know how much people are pulling in logging from cPanel and looking for stuff, right?
I don't know how much. I'm trying to think again. Back when I used to
And
manage websites, I don't even remember how much logging you could. I do remember
yeah,
that you could turn on a lot of logging, but it just brought the performance of the system down so
yeah,
low
exactly right. I was thinking
that
the
you
same
couldn't
thing.
keep it that way. Right? It
So
just
how many people
loaded
probably
its
had
ass
on
up
turned
so
it
much you
off?
couldn't get
Yeah,
anything out of it. You know what I mean? So
yeah, exactly.
effectively, there wasn't any logging because if you turned it on too much, too verbose, damn thing didn't run. So,
Yeah,
and so like I said, these things are standard HTTP headers that you're getting, so that nothing's going to pick that up. That even any of the WAF rules or whatever you got, like for 0 days, window observation, all that, it's not going to pick it up because carriage return line feed patterns and basic auth headers are just normal. I mean, that's just normal traffic. It's not going to pick that up as anomalous in any kind of way. And then if
yeah,
you if you go digging around in the authentication logs, um, they'll show a failed login of what looks like a successful session. The forgery, that's what's happening. It's happening inside of the damn session file, not the login flow. So you won't really show it in the right place. So it's not going to show up in the log file that has to do with login flow.
right.
It's going to be down in the session logs, and you got to be specifically looking for that. And like I said, that means you got to have a pretty verbose amount of login turned on. So it looks like a normal cPanel traffic kind of thing going on until you expect the session contents, and then you see that they're basically stuffing it and injecting a code segment in there, or at least a sessions token in there to try and hijack the damn thing. So anyway, that's the basic thing. It's nothing. Again, I get tired of saying it now. It's like I've never in my life. How many? I mean, I don't remember ever being at a point where we go, well, you know what? This really isn't a vulnerability or a flaw. This is just, the way this software works. It's just we
Yeah,
say that so many times, man.
and I don't know how many people keep up with cPanel, right? I mean, I don't even
No,
know if
yeah, yeah,
like what is it like?
yeah.
And you have to know that, especially if it's a non-storefront type website, just like a marketing website or whatever you call
Whatever.
it,
Yeah,
like that stuff just doesn't get updated enough. I mean, yeah. I mean, not to shit on hosting providers, but they're not the ones that are just updating stuff like that and just running. And a lot of times, it may be the responsibility of somebody else, like the person that has the website or develops the website or whatever that does it.
right.
And I wouldn't be surprised. There's a bunch of websites out there where they haven't made a change or update. I know that for a fact because I've
Yeah.
worked cases where I've seen somebody pull up the victim's website. And I'm like, uh, this thing looks the same it did 20 years ago, doesn't it? Oh yeah, it does. So no telling how many.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
So
just a piece of code that's been around forever that has done this job forever, that has probably had this exploit forever, that has just been filtered out, over the years, and someone figured this out, and now everybody's vulnerable. Literally,
yeah.
everybody's vulnerable. So
So I mean, what can happen? I mean, here's the deal. I mean,
just take over
if you
your own
don't,
website.
they take over your website, so they could use it for fraudulent purposes. So we've seen that where people use
Oh
the
yeah,
website to for that purpose. I
oh
mean, I've
yeah,
seen it where people have gone on and there's been forums and changed the questions on the forums or changed the redirect where the form data gets submitted.
yeah.
There are people that have that form data sit behind the website, and then that makes it easier for the attacker to get to that form data and pull it. And you're like, well, what could that be? It just depends on what questions you're asking on that form. So you may not actually be paying for something on there, but you're collecting a bunch of information that can be sensitive. I mean, obviously, somebody could deface the site. So, I mean, in today's world, that's, there's a lot of people out there that want to deface people's stuff just for
Just for
stupid
pure
reasons and
meanness.
for pure meanness. So,
Well,
yeah,
phishing relays. I mean, they could set up domain because it's an authentic. To get past DMARC, they can do mail. They can add mail accounts to it because
no,
cPanel allows you to create mail accounts on a valid domain name, and that way they can get past the DMARC shit. I mean, there's the endless everything, damn near everything we talk about. If you've got a valid domain and they got control of your server, it's got 101 uses, man. It's like a Swiss Army knife. You can use it for just damn near anything. Not the least of which is to compromise everything from if you got PCI data on that because it's an e-commerce site, and they got access to damn near everything as it relates to that too. So anyway, it's the point being, no reason to beat this horse any deader than it already is, but it's a serious exploit It's got to get
Yeah.
plugged, and
And
it
you got to
affects
pay
damn
attention
near
to
every
it.
cPanel.
Yeah. And if you're an MSP, I know most
Yeah,
MSPs don't get into the website side of things, but it's still, you need
don't
to
matter.
tell them, no matter. You need to tell them. I mean, you're their IT person.
Yep.
So yeah, contractually, you may not be obligated to do it, but it's the right thing to do and to address it and chase it down.
Yeah. At least
Um,
make them notify them. You know, if you're an MSP, you should be notifying your customers that if they got their own websites, they need to, or if they're getting a website from another provider, third party provider, they need to
yeah.
ask to make sure that the cPanel's brought up to the, you know, the right update levels to, because they have addressed this, but it's recently been addressed, so it needs to
Yep.
be recently updated. So this definitely falls into the
And,
category of
and everything I've seen, it's not a disruptive update at all. So I
nah.
mean, it's yeah.
cPanel's built to be updated live while everything's running and keep it from distorting everything. So this is not going to be. It's not going to be hard. By the way, recurring thing, not a hard fix. You just got to stop what you're doing and go do it. That's all. So
Yep.
that's what it is.
A 9.8 CVSS score. So
But there you go.
there you go.
That's all you need to know. So as far as the LLMs go, they all picked up on this the same as it relates to the session handling being the problem. 1.5 million exposed instances, or about 70 million domains managed.
That seems a little low to me. Seems a little
Probably is.
low.
That's known domain. I ain't no telling. So
Yeah.
the scale has all been consistent between them all. You know, it's actively exploiting a 0 day before the patch availability. That is going to be so common going forward. It's not even funny because of the, you know, this whole mythos and where that's going. I mean, that just happened a few weeks ago. They
Yeah.
talked about that. Mythos was so scary that a commercial entity said, "Hey, we probably shouldn't give this to just everybody. We need to," because it turns out every website and every operating system has got vulnerabilities. Well, here you go. This is an object example of what they're talking about. If not specifically found by Mythos, which by the way, it could have been, you know, with the timing that's involved in this, it could have been exactly one of those things. But
Yeah.
regardless, it's obviously the same sort of in the same category. So as far as separation on these engines, again, we use all of them to kind of run these analysis. Claude had the strongest emphasis on the, you know, how big a blast radius really is with this thing. If you got a multi-tenant server, they all have their own cPanel, and you can, you know, you can basically compromise one server, but compromise a lot of logical sites if they're all on the same server.
And that's definitely one of those things that can be automated. We didn't talk about this. So from an
Yeah,
attack
100%.
perspective,
Yeah,
I mean,
this is a no-brainer to
it's no
automate.
brainer, man. I mean, this
It doesn't
actually is
require a
automation.
password, for God's sakes.
Automation 101. So
Yeah,
if you want to
yeah,
hire somebody as a junior automation
yeah,
person, this would be a good way to test them.
yeah,
So
easy.
anyway, easy stuff. Yeah.
GPT was a lot more precise with all the version numbers, like it usually is. But again, it labeled it's always very careful to label assumptions. So that's always going to be what you get when you got GPT, which, you know, it serves a purpose. It's a lot more conservative in its review of these things. Perplexity is the one that kind of basically confirmed the 9.8 CVSS. It tends to pick up on those compliance issues a lot better, you know, compliance notifications a lot better, which is interesting because Perplexity is really using multiple engines behind multiple models behind itself to do what it does. So, and it noticed a possible triage delay for where cPanel, you know, reportedly where cPanel kind of dismissed the initial report and then extended the 0 day window a little further while they were basically dismissing it. So that was kind of cool. Grok was a lot more technical, got a lot more granular. By the way, all these research documents will be out there like they always are. Go grab them and take a look at them. And the sources, I make it, you know, the way we built this is where it notes all the sources and they have to be validated sources. So. And then Gemini has surfaced a couple things that everybody else was sort of missed, and that was cPanel dismissed the report. Again, that's a little bit what Perplexity is talking about, but that's because Perplexity uses Gemini as well. And then extended the 0 day, and then the shadow server data showing about 44,000 or so actively exploited IPs as of May 1st. And basically gave a geographic breakdown that it's had about a 70% U.S. concentration. Not unusual. The U.S. sort of leads in websites and that sort of thing. So that's where we're at. So the big deal is hosting providers need to be on top of this. Small businesses on shared hosting need to be on top of this. MSPs that work with either or both of those. If you got your own end user website, you need to deal with it. And then security teams, you got to just watch for the fact that these things could be. You got to be observant on these. Anybody that's got anything that's got a cPanel web server on it, you just got to be paying attention.
And it's you don't need a fancy pen test to figure this one out.
No.
I mean, there's plenty of data and information out there to tell you how to do it. So, I mean, do it all from your browser.
You just got to, main thing is run an audit inventory on, asset inventory on cPanel, looking for cPanel, make sure that's all taken care of. So
yeah, for sure.
That's the big deal. And that pretty much covers it.
That's
what
it.
This one is. It's cPanel of all things.
cPanel, right? Paneling.
Yeah, it's like someone saying white bread will kill you. You know what I mean? It's like, Jesus, man. That's like, it's just core.
You just remember, like, that old shit will still bite you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I was thinking about. Like,
yeah.
Somebody sitting around going, man, you know what? I can't think of anything we need to compromise. What about old cPanel? Man, no one's really touched cPanel in a long time. Let's go after cPanel. I don't know where that comes from, but anyway, who knows? Well, maybe next time there'll be a 0 day for Wildcat BBS. We'll have to talk about
that. There's like 10 people out there that knows what the hell Wildcat BBS is.
Yeah, there's more. They just don't want to admit it.
Yeah, so, anyway. Yeah, because a lot of
they don't want to be called like Unk or Boomer or whatever the hell the derogatory term is. But yeah, for sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's it for this one. We'll catch you guys on the next one, man. See you.